Hey everybody, so Bentley decided to crash this intro again, so here is Bentley. So today I actually wanted to put the control deck on the Big Blue and generally on Arcade1Ups to the test against a higher end stick. So behind me I've got the Victrix. So that is a stock Arcade1Up still, that is a stock Victrix. And essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and see how many DPs I can do, Dragon Punches, in Hyper Fighting on the 30th anniversary edition on the PlayStation versus on Big Blue. Let's go in, let's see how the DPs go, and then I'm going to talk about some general problems I've run into with my Arcade1Up controls. Alright, so that was 10 DPs, 0 misses on the 30th anniversary edition going to the right. Alright, and that was 9 DPs going to the left out of 10 on the 30th anniversary edition. All right, so there we got 9 out of 10 going to the right. All right, and there we got 7 out of 10 going to the left. Yeah, so I actually have to say that I'm pretty pleasantly surprised by how that went. It's still a significant difference between the Arcade1Up and the Victrix. On the Victrix, you guys saw that basically going in cold, I was able to hit 19 out of 20 DPs. And then on the Arcade1Up, I was able to hit 16 out of 20, I believe it was. So we're looking at an 80% rate here of successful, and obviously the sample size isn't huge, and I can do another video where we do a lot more if people want that. But essentially we hit 80% of our Dragon Punches here. We hit 95% on the Victrix. And if you're in a close match, that 15% makes a huge difference, right? That's 1 out of every 5 Dragon Punches that you need that you might miss. And then that gets in your head and makes you think, oh, should I use a different tool that I can more reliably hit? So I'm actually surprised it was 80%. So that's better than I expected. I thought that I'd be missing more on here. But that said, it's still pretty far from the 95%. And let me just talk about a couple other problems with the control stick that I've noticed since I've had Big Blue. So for starters, I complained about the Fierce button on player 1 at the beginning. And now I'd say that it doesn't actually register probably about 30 to 40% of the time. When I first started, it just felt weird because it was like, oh, maybe I was hitting it wrong because like 1 out of every 10 wouldn't catch. But as I've put more time on this machine, I think the button's just getting more and more worn out. I'm not sure what's wrong with it, so I'll be swapping it out soon. But now it whiffs, at least a third of the time. Like it just doesn't, I hit it and it just doesn't do anything, which is pretty wild. The other issue here is these joysticks compared to the Victrix, because I don't normally jump straight from one to the other. And I can confirm the kind of the complaints about how stiff this is. To get those DPs to register, like I had to like really work the stick, and typically on a good stick it's a very gentle fluid motion. You don't have to touch the edge of the gate. But like here, I felt like I had to like really slam it in, and that might be why folks are complaining about Big Blue wobbling. Because to do the DPs on here, like I did manage to get it wobbling. But if I was doing my normal stick movements, like on my Victrix, it would just be gentle fluid movements. But doing those gentle movements, I could not get the DP to register. So I had to do kind of those harder, jerkier motions. But the last like big problem I noticed when I was jumping between the two is I didn't realize how much shorter the shaft is on these Arcade1Up sticks. I'm not sure why they didn't go with a standard length joystick, but I think that's part of why it feels like you have to like work the stick a lot more. So this short stick causes problems of like needing to push harder and do more work. in my perspective. The other problem too is if you do like the wine glass hold and things like that, like your hand is just rubbing against the deck here, which isn't really a problem on you know, standard length shafts. And the last problem I've run into is with the claw grip, or like a more standard grip. Like here, I don't really have enough room to get 2 fingers under at all, so I can't do kind of one of my standard grips. You can do the pinky grip, but then I feel like my index sits too high. It's not giving me the grip that I need. Again, that short shaft there was a really strange choice. So, you know, with the help of some videos I found from To Die For, I'm gonna attempt to mod this deck. And if that mod goes well, I'm gonna apply the exact same mod to X-Men vs. Street Fighter, now that I know, you know, how much of a difference it can make. So yeah, I hope you guys found that a little bit helpful. Having now jumped between the 2 versions, like, I can definitely say that these controls are very much lacking. I will do a video where I apply the mod, talk about how difficult it was, and then I'll do the same test again, where we do DPs on the Victrix versus DPs on the modded Arcade1Up, and we'll see if our DP rate goes up.